What's good, everyone? It's Divine Sense Boxing back in the building. Thanks for tuning in, and it's good to be with you. You know, boxing fans have been blessed the past month or so with great fights, and we have another great fight on the horizon. April 30th, Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. Both of these gentlemen are bringing a massive amount of talent to the table. Not only is this an intriguing fight stylistically, but also we have two titles on the line, which is the WBO and WBC super featherweight titles. And I know you saw the title of the video, and you're probably thinking, what's this guy talking about? I mean, what's his opinion? Rather you're an Oscar Valdez fan or a Shakur Stevenson fan, if you're new to the channel, this is what I do. I break down fights. I give you my predictions. We keep it raw and authentic, and that's how we do it here in Divine Sense Boxing. So consider hitting that subscribe button and stay a part of the conversation. But let's get to it. I want to start off with Oscar Valdez and give you guys some thoughts about Oscar Valdez, a little bit of the tail of the tape, talk about what I think he does well, and also something perhaps where he'll be vulnerable against Shakur Stevenson. So we're going to hit on those two topics real quick. So if you guys don't know, Oscar Valdez, some websites have him at 5'5", some people have him at 5'6". Regardless, I think he's going to have a height disadvantage in this fight. He has a 66-inch reach. And if you guys didn't know, he is 30-0. 30 of those wins come by, 23 of those wins come by way of knockout. So 30-0 with 23 KOs. Now, one thing that I noticed about Oscar Valdez that he does very well, obviously, as a featherweight, super featherweight, he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of pop. He can hurt you with a couple of shots, especially. One being big left hooks. Oscar Valdez, as a orthodox fighter, has a very good left hook. He can rip it to the body. He can rip it to the head. And he can hit you at this weight class flush and hurt you with one shot. All right, everybody who steps into the ring with Oscar Valdez is aware of this, and you got to be careful about that. Now, one thing I also noticed about Oscar Valdez as far as defense is concerned, he doesn't use a lot of head movement, right? Not a lot of rolls, not a lot of slips. He relies on a high guard, and he relies on catching and shooting, right? So he doesn't have a problem taking, combinations on the gloves and explode from the ground into your body or to your head and try to land big shots. We saw that a lot against the Conceição fight, where it was a little bit of a controversial fight. Some people had him losing the fight. Some people said that Oscar edged it out. But one thing I think that we all can agree on is Conceição did a lot of great things in that fight. And one thing that he exposed, in my opinion, about Oscar Valdez is he doesn't have very good head movement, right? He gets kind of caught in quicksand sometimes, and he relies on catching and throwing big shots, right? And if you're somebody like Shakur Stevenson, you are going to be ready for that, right? Another thing is that he's very heavy on the front foot, meaning that he likes to come forward. He likes to step into the box and dig in big shots, keeps his hands up, and try to catch you with something big. You don't see Oscar Valdez going backwards very much. Even if he's being peppered with combinations, he likes to stand there and exchange, right? So keep that in mind, right? As I just mentioned, got a good left hook, and we already know that he's got a hell of a chin. We've seen him take big shots before. He's able to take those shots, continue to come forward, and try to throw big shots back. He's extremely durable. He's the type of guy that will train to go 12 rounds. He is going to train for this fight in particular. One of the biggest fights in his career thus far is this Shakur Stevenson fight. So I believe he will come in shape, and he will be prepared to go 12 rounds if it lasts that long. Another thing about Oscar Valdez that I noticed in a couple of his fights is that he is vulnerable to the jab. You ever watch Oscar Valdez? He doesn't have one particular defensive movement that he does to defend the jab. He doesn't try to parry. He doesn't try to slip and counter. Every once in a while, he might try to step to the side and slip the jab. But more or less, he lets the jab come in so he can feel that range, and then he tries to close that range. But he does get hit with the jab, right? And I don't think that he has the best defense of defending the jab, and that could be something that we're going to see a lot in this fight when it comes to who's going to establish the jab, because let's not forget Shakur Stevenson, which I'll mention here in a moment, is southpaw, right? So it's going to be the battle of the jab between an orthodox and a southpaw fighter. Who will have a better jab? I think it'll be Shakur Stevenson. And last note, real quick, is I kind of mentioned it, kind of touched on it already, is that he does go to the body well. If there's a situation in this fight where they get up close, or if Oscar Valdez is able to get Shakur Stevenson on the rope somehow, Oscar will work, right? He will dig deep. He will set his feet, plant his feet, and just rip and rip and rip and rip away to that body. And he does do good, on occasion where he'll feint to the head and go to the body, right? And I'm looking for that from Oscar Valdez because I haven't seen enough of that mixture from him. He's been telegraphing his punches a little bit too much recently in his fights, and as he continues to step up in competition, great fighters will expose that. So I want to see him, throw some feints and be patient and go to that body of Shakur Stevenson, a guy who's young, who's flashy, who's quick. You want to try to take the wind out of those sails as much as you possibly can. Now, let's jump into Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson's coming into this fight 5'7". He's got a 68-inch reach, so he's going to have at least a 2-inch reach advantage in this fight. And as I mentioned, he's a southpaw. He is currently 17-0, and of those 17 wins, 9 of those were KOs. One thing that reminds me of Shakur Stevenson, or one person who reminds me of Shakur Stevenson at this point in his career, with his youth, with his speed, with his dexterity, with his agility, reminds me a lot of a young Floyd Mayweather. I'm not talking about Money Mayweather that a lot of us remember in the past 10, 15 years. I'm talking about Pretty Boy Floyd, right? Has that jab hand out there kind of a little bit away from his face and, really quick with it, to the body, to the head, right? And he just keeps one punch or the other cocked and loaded. Rather, he loads up with a big right hook or he comes in with that left hand, right? But super fast speed going in and out, and that's how he overwhelms a lot of his opponents. That's how he overwhelmed Herring, was just purely hand speed and just too quick, and not only just landing punches, but land a combination, get out, and be able to lean back just enough to avoid getting hit back. It's something that Pretty Boy Floyd, especially in the first probably 20 to 25 fights of his career, did very, very well. And I see those same kind of trend from Shakur Stevenson. And as a southpaw, I preach this all the time on my channel. If you're a southpaw, if you have a good jab, I call it a southpaw jab. If you have a good southpaw jab and are able to use your right lead hand effectively, you're going to be very, very difficult to beat against fellow southpaws who don't have as good of a right hand as you, and of course against orthodox fighter who you're going to fight more often. So I see that from Shakur. I see the nice jab, oddie head, come off with the right hook. He can also step back, check right hook off as well, and those are very good weapons to have. He has fantastic feints. He'll feint to the body, go to the head, vice versa, and one thing that I like as far as one of his power punches are concerned is a big left hand to the body. And, that comes into the feints, right? He's feinting, jabs the head, follow up with a left hand to the body. And in a southpaw stance against an orthodox fighter, you can get away with, landing that left hand to the body and sliding out to your right and forcing that right-handed fighter to step laterally to try and cut you off from doing that. And he's going to test Oscar Valdez's lateral movement or his ability to move laterally, and that's going to be interesting to see. And I've already kind of touched that here. I have got a little bit of footnotes here, but one thing that, like I said, is the reactions and speed. At this point, I haven't seen anybody who has been able to neutralize his speed. Yes, he's young. Yes, he is the least experienced between the two. Will that be a factor in the fight? Will experience play a role? Well, they said that about Herring as well. So, I want to see if Oscar Valdez can actually neutralize that speed, because it's not just speed. It's not just Devin Alexander or Zab Judah speed. It's a guy who can move in and out very, very quickly, pivot around you, right? Twist you, turn you, and if you're throwing wide punches, he'll come on the inside of those punches and catch you. This young fighter is extremely, extremely talented. So for me, it's a situation of we have a fighter that has grit, determination, power, durability against a very athletic, very talented, very young, high boxing IQ, fighter and Shakur Stevenson clashing coming this weekend, and I think it's going to be a heck of a fight for as long as it lasts. But like I said in my title, man, I think this will be a situation where Shakur Stevenson will ultimately demolish Oscar Valdez, man. I really do believe it. I think there'll be some entertaining moments, especially early. But as Shakur Stevenson finds his range and gets comfortable and starts to be able to land combinations, I see a situation where Oscar Valdez is headhunting and just trying to land a big punch, and Shakur Stevenson will cruise, in my opinion, to a 12-round decision that will be clear and without any discrepancy or very little discrepancy. That's what I see. Any knockdowns in the fight? I don't think so. That's a common question I get. I don't think we'll have any knockdowns in the fight. I think that Oscar Valdez can get bruised up, beat up, cut up, very possibly. I don't see him get knocked down in the fight. Is there a possibility where Oscar catches, Shakur stepping back and clips him? Yeah, it is possible. But I think if it does happen, I think Shakur will get up and continue to take control of the fight. And if he does get knocked down, that's not a bad thing for a young fighter to be able to have to overcome that adversity. So I'm looking forward to all of these potential things falling into place. But ultimately, my prediction is 12-round domination by Shakur Stevenson. Y'all heard it here first. You guys know where to find me if I'm wrong, or of course, if I'm right. It's your boy Divine Sense. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, even if you don't agree. We're in here talking boxing, so smash that like button. I appreciate you. Catch you guys on the next one. I will go live for this fight. See you then. Peace.